Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. This is Kay back at it with a new video. Today we're going to talk about the responsibilities of a building chief engineer. Now we already talked about a building custodian, we talked about a building service technician, and then we also talked about a building engineer. Now we're going to talk about being the chief engineer. And I've had the luxury and the blessing to be all of those things. So let's get started. What exactly is a building chief engineer? The chief engineer is the head guy. There's no one above him. He is the guy. He's over the engineers. If he's got service people, he's over them. If he's got a custodian, he's over the custodian. The chief engineer is the top position. And they also call it director of maintenance. And I think they pretty much the same. I had the luxury of being that shortly. It didn't last for too long, but that's for another day. But what exactly does the chief engineer do? He's responsible for delegating to his underlings what needs to be done on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, and a yearly basis. He's the guy that meets with management and the owners to address any issues they might have and deal with it. He delegates to his team on who does what, who do he think is capable of doing it. He's dealing with getting estimates. He's responsible for getting contracts for work that needs to be done at his building. And so it's more of I want to say it's like a white collar worker slash blue collar worker. And when I was a chief engineer, it was just overwhelming. It was just so much work to do, so many things that needed to be done, and you had no one that you can go to above you to deal with it. No, you had to deal with it. You got your meetings, you got things that's breaking, you got things that need to be addressed, and you got violations, and you got all these things that you're dealing with. And now in most cases, they try to give you assistant chief engineer. In my situation, I didn't have that at the time, and it was just a lot of work. And you're trying to do work too. You're trying to the work orders are constantly coming in, so you gotta get involved too and do some work orders as well as manage everything. It's just overwhelming position to have. Now, when I was an engineer, yeah, that was cool. It was a lot of work, a lot of responsibility. However, I had someone above me, like the property manager, that can help me out with some of the things I didn't have time to do. But when you're the chief engineer, everything falls on your lap. Everything. There is no way to turn. You're responsible for anything and everything at whatever buildings you're responsible for. And generally, if you have like a team underneath you, and it's never enough. It's never enough staff. And then you got to have a staff that's motivated. Because if you don't have a staff that's motivated, it can make life difficult because, again, everything falls on you. And I was in that position where I think I had two full timers, and then I had a cleaning guy, and then I had a lot of part time or part time workers. They work full time, but they was like temp people. So, you don't know what you're getting when you have temp people because technically, they just hired out to you, and so I found myself doing a lot of work, and trying to manage the office side of it too. It was very difficult. I mean, so what are some of the things you should be able to do if you're a chief engineer? Well, you have to be really knowledgeable in maintenance. You have to know electrical, plumbing. You got to know about heating, air conditioning, and ventilation. Hope I said that right. HVAC, air conditioning, ventilation, air conditioning, blah, whatever. You got to know that. You got to know how the system works. And most air conditioning and ventilation systems and heating, all that's going to automation. So you got to know a little bit of automation to make sure that's functioning right. You got to know a little bit about what to do if the elevators break down. And the biggest thing is delegating. Delegating to your staff on what you want done, and it's hard when you got a short staff and somebody need to take a vacation or someone call in sick or you got a staff that really aren't motivated and they do the bare minimum. It's on you. It's a tough job. I have a lot of respect and a lot of appreciation for people that run really big facilities and buildings and things like that, And I think back on when I did it, and it's not easy. It's not easy at all. So let's talk about the pay part of it. The pay isn't great. When I was the chief engineer, I was pretty much making the same money as an engineer, but I had like three, four times the responsibility. I think I was making maybe about $60,000. That job was 100 plus, easy. I had almost 200 units. Now that may not sound like a lot, but 200 units with a lot of problems is a lot of work. And I've learned that because if you're going to be a chief engineer, you probably want a newer building, even though newer buildings going to have their issues too. But you don't really want an old building with a lot of problems, mainly roof leaks, electrical issues, flooring. The list just goes on and on. I could be here all day talking about the problems you can have when you run in a big building, and it's not easy. But the main thing is the pay. If you're not getting paid what you think, because I remember when I had applied for the job and they asked me how much was I looking to make, and I said $100,000. Without no hesitation, I said $100,000. Did I get 100,000? No, I got it was about 60. I think it was about 60, 65, something like that, but it wasn't enough for all the work that I was doing. I mean, I was running around like a chicken without a head, and eating lunch at my desk, and it was just always something to deal with. Whether it's employees or the amount of work orders that's piling up, short staff, the bureaucracy in getting the materials you need because nowadays management companies make you jump through a lot of hoops just to order anything. So you gotta deal with that issue, just getting what you need. And you got X amount of dollars that you can spend, and it just goes on and on. And then you got the city looking down your back with the violations and how you gonna get those addressed and how much money it takes, and you got new projects that's coming up and how you gonna deal with those and how you gonna deal with the old projects, and and again it keep going back to the staff, and then management companies don't want to spend no money. What are you gonna do now? So being being a chief engineer, you got to be courteous. You got to have some years of experience. You got to be knowledgeable about commercial buildings, residential buildings, facilities, whichever one you want to be involved with. You got to be a self-starter. You got to be aware of all the problems and the goings on in your buildings. You got to be on call to deal with them, and you got to be able to delegate someone to inspect the property, and you should do it as well. You got to know about your heating and air. Make sure that that's always up to par, especially in the summertime and the wintertime, because if it's super cold out there and you don't have no heat, you're going to hear from them tenants. If it's super hot out and you don't have any air conditioning, you're going to hear from your tenants. So you got to stay on top of that. You got to stay on top of your fire system, your fire panel, your fire pump system, man. And you got to stay on top of the work orders that's coming in. As soon as they come in the door, you should be trying to get them back out the door. You got to know a little bit about carpentry, painting, locks, drywall repair, kitchens, sinks, urinals, toilets, lighting, appliances, refrigerators, stoves, hot water tanks, exercise. The list just goes on, and you got to make sure that if you're dealing with the snow at your building, that you got the right staff that's prepared to make sure they get it done, like the snow blowers and shovels, and you got to make sure that they have enough salt, and it just goes on and on. It goes on and on. And again, most of the time, you're not making the money that you deserve to do that job. So that's all I have for you on this one. Again, this is Kay, back at it with a new video. One other video I might do is the responsibilities of a building laborer. That's all I have for you guys. See you in the next video. Take care.